Welcome to the Catching Up with Casey show. If you are tired of chasing buy-in, frustrated with teams who can't seem to get on the same page, or over the constant struggle of holding people accountable without micromanaging, this is the show for you. I'm Casey Watts, speaker, author, and the creator of the Clarity Cycle Framework. I help leaders just like you take teams from frustration to alignment so teams can work collectively toward a common purpose in a committed way instead of against each other as though they are functioning in different organizations. And we do it all through the craft of clarity. Whether you lead from the middle or you are the front-facing leader of your organization, on this show, we bring clarity to the seemingly small things in leadership that make the biggest difference, because clarity precedes capacity. Now, with all of that said, let's dive into today's episode. Well, hey, everybody. Welcome to today's podcast episode. I am really excited to be joined by Dr. Matthew Flippen, and we are bringing clarity to how to become a trust-first leader. Matthew, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks, Casey. What a privilege and honor to have this time with you. You know, you are such an inspiration to me and have been a great guide and friend to me on our journey. So happy to be here with you this time.
Well, thank you. The feelings are absolutely mutual. I hope you know that. I was actually on your podcast episode not too long ago, and now we're just kind of like reversing roles. So this will be a lot of fun to get to interview you.
That's great. Anytime with you is fun. Anytime.
Okay, so tell our listeners a little bit about who you are and the work that you do.
Yeah. Would love to do that. So yeah, Dr. Matthew Flippen, please call me Matthew though. And I am the founder and president of Gracelyn University. We are an institution that was built around a very specific purpose, and that was to solve the teacher shortage crisis by helping the wonderful K-12 paraprofessionals and teachers assistants upskill into degreed certified teachers for as little as $100 a month in most cases. And so that system has really led to us building an institution that has over 1,000 students, all of which are essentially paraprofessionals, incredibly high outcomes, and really life transformation that is honestly really just humbling for me to get to be a part of at this stage.
Yeah, and it has grown. I mean, so when were you founded, and how much has it grown since then?
Yes.
And I also would love for you to share like what's next for you guys.
Absolutely. Yeah. So we started officially with our first students in August of 21. We had 16 students that first term. We were doubling every term. You know, we offer 5 terms a year, 8 weeks in length, and so we've grown pretty rapidly. We had to get through the accreditation process, and so we were thankful and blessed to be fully accredited a little over a year ago. And so that opened the door for us to expand out of Texas into national, where we are authorized in every state. We even have some international students joining us as well. So now we're in that over 1,000 students growing to 3,000 pretty quickly. We also are expanding from the bachelor's in education program that we started with. We backed up and said, hey, let's make an associate's in education so that paraprofessionals that may be concerned about that 4-year horizon of earning a degree could take an in-between step that might feel more manageable for them. And then on the other side, we've added a master's in education, and we're releasing a master's in transformational leadership for educators that I am really excited about.
Yeah. What is a major differentiator in how Gracelyn provides its services and how you prepare teachers?
Yes. You know, it's very, very intentional. You know, the paraprofessional population has a lot of very unique characteristics and needs in order for them to be successful. You know, we looked at the 1.2 million teachers assistants that are in our schools, K-12 schools across the country. And we did a pretty big research project to understand, like, what are their needs? You know, do they want to be teachers? And if so, what are the barriers that they face? And what we found in the 3,000 responses we got back was that, you know, 90% want to be educators. but they face a money barrier, right? Because their income is pretty low, 10 to $12 an hour. They face a time barrier because 65% of them are single parents. And so they're often juggling more than one job and children and everything else. They also face a barrier that we call the confidence barrier, in that many, 45%, have pretty significant trauma that they experienced earlier in their lives. And, when you have significant trauma, that can sometimes paint a picture or a voice inside that says, I'm not worthy of becoming a teacher, or I can't because I've failed at things I've tried in the past. And so building a system that is, this $100 a month, that is 8-week courses, that has a pause button when you hit a life trauma and you need to take a quick break, having success coaches instead of advisors, having a scripted path that gets you to the certification that you want, and then incentivizing our instructors and our whole team around the idea of completion. And that the outcome of that is we do have 94% completion rates, over 80% graduation rates, really some just, 100% job placement rates, right? Which makes sense when you take these people that have heart and grit, they've been doing this wonderful work for such low pay. If we get them degreed and certified, of course, they're going to step in and be long-term educators, continuing to make a great impact on children, many of which, are children that have hard stories, like the paraprofessional and teacher's assistant.
Mm-hmm.
We always lean into and really reinforce this with our teacher's assistant students, right, that are, on average 35 years old, that your unique journey that has some real hard pieces to it makes you uniquely qualified to connect with a child going through a really hard time. Mm-hmm. And that's not true for most of us, right? And so it's a beautiful way to help a population that has a lot of gifts and has some challenges. Man, we're helping them address those challenges so that they can really step into what we would say is God's purpose, and calling on their lives.
Mm-hmm. What was the origin story of this? Like, why this kind of, because this is you showing up as a transformational leader. So why this work?
Why this? Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, it's a longer story than we probably have to tell. I'll tell you the immediate backstory, but big picture, God has given me a heart for vulnerable children and vulnerable people. And before I was blessed to get to start Gracelyn, I was actually working in the country of Haiti. And Haiti, if you know much about it, is an entire nation of vulnerable people, right? Children that are suffering in terrible ways, and the adult population as well is really struggling. And so being part of that for almost 8 years and being able to work alongside the Haitian people who, in a similar way, have a desire to see their children do well, have a desire to see them, themselves, advance. I really had the opportunity to develop this model of where I thought, wow, I really want to be part of something that provides economic advancement opportunities for the poor, and that serves widows and orphans. And because, in our modern times, orphans a lot of times are single parent orphans, right? They're missing one relationship that's really critical in their development. And widows, in a lot of times, functionally are like our single moms. They have a lot of the same burdens and challenges, and are extremely capable. In fact, I have so much respect for the people that we serve. And so when I saw that, there was a huge shortage of qualified educators, and that is, pre-COVID, post-COVID, continues to be that today. I thought, wow, there's a real need here to see that all vulnerable children have an incredible teacher that is caring, compassionate and competent, right? And then there's also this neat opportunity to take the paraprofessional and help them upskill so that they can have an even greater influence in the children's lives that they care so deeply about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and they're already in the schools and getting to see the work and do the work as they're learning. about becoming a classroom teacher. I think that's just really, really phenomenal. And so you're releasing this transformational leaders program. What was the guiding intent for that? Because I know there's a lot of intentional purpose behind that.
Yes. Yes, my dissertation when I was doing it was actually on the teacher turnover challenge, and this has been an issue in urban and settings for a long time, like more than 30, 40 years. They've been studying like how do we help address the teacher shortage challenge, and I will say I was surprised at how many things had been tried. Increasing pay, changing the work schedule, all of these things have been tried and really studied and unfortunately proven to not have a significant impact on the turnover challenge, except for one study that I read. And it was about the servant leader approach, the trust-based approach to campus leadership. All of us probably working in K-12 have heard kind of the two main reasons people leave education, right? One is behavior, classroom behavior issues, and another is culture. I leave because of the culture. And they're about 50-50 is what most surveys would say. Well, culture comes down, really, it starts with the leader, right? The campus leader. And so we backed up and said, well, what are campus leaders, are there any, right, that have led in today's climate in a way that goes against what the statistics would say, right? Are they able to take a low performing school and move it to a high performing school through a model of servant leadership in a relatively short amount of time, right? Can I walk into a school and in 2 to 3 years get huge movements without firing all my staff, without firing all the children, without firing all the adults, right? In other words, I take it as is and I transform it. And really, Casey, I'd love to share some of the stories, that we've captured there to really show that.
Yeah, we would love to hear them.
Yeah. I think probably one of the first ones I'll share is Dr. Karen Engel, who now is the superintendent in Clear Creek ISD. I sat down with her and said, tell me about this time where you had at Clearview High School, which was like an alternative school for 7th through 12th graders. 350 at-risk students, was considered the lowest performing school in a district of about 30 campuses. Staff morale was low, turnover was high. I mean, it was tough. It was a tough environment. And yet, in a 2 years later, they almost reached the exemplary status. I think they missed it by one student. So I'm like,
wow.
Karen, what did you do? And, sometimes you hear the answers to these and you're like, wow, why isn't everyone doing that? Mm-hmm. And she said, Matthew, it really is like, it's 3 steps. You listen, you learn, and you respond. And I was like, okay, well, what does that mean? And she said, well, before I started the first day, I met with all the staff one-on-one, and I just listened. I said, what do you love about the school? And what do you see as some of the challenges? And I'm like, well, that sounds pretty straightforward. Yeah. And so what'd you learn? And she said, well, I learned there were some really great things. We had a lot of staff that was really committed to these children that were very at risk. And that was a real strength. She said, there were lots of things. She said, I went back and I put together a spreadsheet and I kind of like, where are the clusters of things that maybe I could address right away? And she said, actually, one of the things, surprisingly, was the previous administration had a consultant that was helping, but was very condescending. And that kept popping up in my interviews with people. And she said, I was like, we don't really need that consultant. So let's let them go. And she said, I can't tell you how quickly I gained credibility and morale just boosted. Mm-hmm. Now, after she listened, right, and learned, right, then she started to implement a plan that was basically around the feedback that she had gathered, collaborating with her team and responding to what they had said was important. And so that path really was incredible. And I know even now at the superintendency, she's walking through that same 3-step process, to keep Clear Creek as a outstanding school.
And do you have a podcast episode with her?
I do. It
Okay.
might even be my very first one.
Okay, well, I'll try to remember to put it in the show notes so people can go and take
Yes.
a look at that podcast episode. And if you, so just a plug, because Dr. Matthew Flippen does have a podcast. Can you share just really quickly about that? Because they can go there and hear so many of these stories that, I mean,
Yes.
I don't want to hear just that one. Surely you've got another you're going
Oh,
to share on
yes,
this
of
podcast.
course.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
But where
Yeah.
can they find the podcast?
Yeah. Yes. So it's Transformational Educators. You can go to gracelyn.edu. There's a little link for podcast up on the right corner. Hit that and subscribe to that or listen. You're probably getting an email about it anyway. But yes, happy to have any guests that also join us that have transformed schools in a similar way. Oh yeah. Thanks for that, Casey.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so you have more than just that one story. I mean, I know
Sure.
your
Mhm.
podcast, you're showcasing person after person. What's another that really
Yes.
stands out to you where trust is the first thing that helped them to lead change?
Yes, yeah, and thanks for asking. So, I'm releasing a book in the fall that's around this idea of the trust first leader, because trust is the foundation that all transformation has to be built on. If you don't have that solid foundation, and it's trust, we kind of throw that word around as like it's a little ambiguous. How do I measure it? And there are some great tools to do that. So I would encourage people to lean into those. But trust isn't just with your staff; it's also with all of the stakeholders. It's with the children. It's with the community in some form. And there are some ways that you can build trust that you don't necessarily plan them out. And I'll share one from Dr. Ramiro Nava, who took over a school in the South San Antonio area, and it was a very challenging school that it was elementary school, a lot of rough children, but there was one child that everyone knew was the worst child in the whole school, which is really sad actually to think that you would know that, right? You'd hope you'd have like all of them are challenging and and this young man, it was also known that his father was extremely intimidating, and everyone every staff member and all the previous administrators were really just terrified of him. So Dr. Ramiro had heard about this. Of course, the little boy gets in trouble within like the first 2 weeks of school. He's got to call the dad to come up and see him, and he said, I'd already been told, his head's shaved, he's covered in tattoos, he's a huge man. And he comes in, I greet him and respectfully, Dr. Nava said, I respectfully say, it's nice to meet you, sir. I wanted to talk to you about what we can do together to help your son be successful. And he said, the gentleman just kind of sat there for a little bit. And he said, finally he spoke and said, I've never had anyone call me sir.
Wow.
And he said, I've never had anybody actually help me with my son, want to help me with my son. Now he went on to share that he had a personal life-changing experience recently. And he said he still gets judged for the way he looks on the outside, but on the inside, all he wants is for his boy to be successful. And I thought, wow, Dr. Nava, that's incredible, because I cannot imagine how fast that spread around the community, and that father became a big advocate for him and supportive and involved, and it just totally changed that piece of the culture. The son still struggled some, but he got better and better. So it was brilliant, really, to hear that.
Yeah.
And that just came from a place of loving people and respecting them, and knowing you may not know their past or experiences. And there are so many stories of like that. I mean, I think of like Dr. Rick Cernsey in Florida, when he took over a campus, he felt like the staff was a little disconnected from the community. So before school started, he gathered all the teachers on the buses with baskets, bags of school supplies, and they went door to door through the community, handing out school supplies and meeting parents and talking to them. And it was part of his journey of taking a school that was graduating 50% of the students to over 90% graduation.
Wow.
I mean, just incredible.
That's amazing. I'm noticing and picking up on themes in these different stories. One of the things that you talked about was the love and care. What are some other themes that you feel like have shown up in all of these stories that you're hearing about a trust first leader?
Yes. Yeah. So when we say, there's probably, I guess I use this phrase a little bit too. And I say, I think what cultures are looking for is they want to be known. Like, I want you to know me. Because you know me, I also would love for you to love me, right? You know me, you love me. And I also want to be inspired by purpose, by a common purpose. Like, what are we doing that is meaningful? And I think each of these leaders in a form, they do that. They convey, I want to know you because I'm going to sit down one-on-one and I'm going to get to know you. I'm going to love you by the way that I treat you with respect, and I'm going to honor your work. I'm going to coach you. I'm going to believe in you. Probably one of my favorite stories about that actually is from Dr. Catrice Pereira. She has been around some hard districts all over the country, and one that she took over, the leaving administrator left a note on her desk that said, "You need to fire so-and-so as soon as you get here." And she was like, well, what a terrible recommendation.
Yeah,
like,
right.
I don't even know this person. Let me go, like, and he wrote, the leaving administrator wrote, never shows up on time, underperform, et cetera, et cetera. And so, Catrice went and sat down with her and said, hey, tell me about the circumstance. I understand. Well, it turns out that this teacher had a very sick aunt that was almost an invalid that she needed to take care of every morning. And the time it took to get that person that she was caring for up, ready and stable so that she could get to work made it extremely difficult for her to get to work on time. Now, Catrice is, and I'd say this is one of the other themes is, there's always these little outside the box elements, right?
Yeah.
And so she's like, so I called some groups in the community and looked up support organizations, and I found some people, some groups that would help with that aunt first thing in the morning. And that teacher was able to get to work on time. And I was like, well, that's cool. She said, no, that's not the cool part. She said the cool part is she became teacher of the year, and her children outperformed every other teacher. And she loved, and she was so great that when I moved to a new campus, she went right along with me and was just an outstanding educator that I almost fired if I had taken the recommendation. Now, when you're listening to that and you're thinking, wow, how did that spread through the community and significantly lift culture and trust and respect, and talk about feeling known and loved and inspired, right? I mean, just right away.
Yeah, that's amazing. I just wonder, for those of us that are listening, they're like, okay, how do you get to a point where that is second nature to you to build trust? Like, what would be a first step for someone who, and this is a good season to think about this, especially for leaders who are about to take on a new principal position, or they're going back into their school and they know that, man, we need some improvement in our culture. What's a first step that they take if they're like, I'm not quite sure how to do this?
Yes. Yeah. This, so one, I'll say as a resource, we have developed a 30-day playbook that is a guide. It's free. It's on that website. If you go to that podcast link, and happy to include that in the show notes as well, because we do think there is a very practical step-by-step process to follow. It does start with this sitting down, spending 15 to 20 minutes with each staff person one-on-one, no more than 2 or 3, and really asking, hey, what's going great? What do I need to improve? I mean, you got to be humble and be willing to listen to what are you not doing well? And that sincerity and authenticity, being able to own, hey, I didn't do that well. I'm sorry. That's why I'm here, is I want to do better. Makes a big difference. And so, that first step of, I'll call it interviewing or gathering positives and negatives, right? What's great? What do we need to work on? And then developing as quick a win as you can around the feedback. It's got to directly connect to the feedback. And so that win, then you get feedback on that. Hey, how'd I do on implementing that thing? And so now you're building this collaborative, open conversation. Once you've established trust and you can check in on it, now you can start building towards, okay, what's our plan, our big strategic plan that we can build and grow towards.
Yeah, that's amazing. Such great feedback on that question. And I want to encourage people, don't take this as that sounds great to do, but actually go and look at the playbook that's going to be in the show notes. Can you go ahead and just share out loud? Like, is there a link they can go to just for people who are listening to this and can't go to the show notes real quick? What's the link they can go to?
Yeah, if they go to gracelyn.edu/transformational/educators, right, that will get them into the process. There's a quick, assess how I'm doing right now as a leader. That's a free assessment. And then there's a playbook that they can get this playbook and then some pathways to grow their team as well, so they can get more on the same page.
Awesome. Well, as we come to a close, this has been so powerful. What is a final idea, thought that you want to leave our listeners thinking about?
Yes. Yeah. I think more than anything right now, we want to be an encouragement to leaders. Right? Leaders are a lot of times feel alone, not known, not loved, and not always inspired. And so, Casey, what you're doing is part of speaking into that and being an encouragement. We want to be an encouragement. So we would say, hey, reach out. Let us be part of your team in a way that you can share ideas with us, or struggles or challenges, and we can together come up with solutions that really help everyone thrive. I always say that, we really I want you to thrive as a leader. Casey, I want you to thrive, and ultimately that cascades down to the children that we serve, many of which are in hard places. And so, but we need to thrive in our roles as well, so that those most vulnerable can reach the potential that God's given each and every one of them.
Yeah. And I can say from personal experience that Dr. Matthew Flippen is someone who truly wants others to thrive. That's definitely something I can say about you, having known you for a year now, maybe we're getting close to it, but I appreciate your care and concern and love for other people. It's extremely encouraging. Everything that you've shared today is so encouraging. Of course, I believe wholeheartedly in what you guys are doing at Gracelyn to improve student learning, but also to improve the lives of, I would say, the men and women who are going out into the world to serve students. So Thank you so much for what you do.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Casey.
Okay, guys, we will catch you in the next episode. If you enjoyed this, be sure to connect with Dr. Matthew Flippen. Where can they find you?
LinkedIn is a great place, or on our website, gracelyn.edu.
Okay. All right, everybody. We'll catch you in the next episode. Bye. Hey, listener, I am so honored that you listened to today's episode, and I hope you gained something valuable from it. I'd also be honored if you did me 3 solid favors. First, subscribe to this show. I've got a lot of great content coming up, and I don't want you to miss any of it. Second, be sure you're following me on social media platforms. You can find me at Catch Up with Casey on LinkedIn or Instagram. And finally, if you are looking to book a dynamic and relatable speaker for your next event, conference, or retreat, I would love to bring a message about how the craft of clarity makes a significant impact on both leadership and life. Until next time, always remember, clarity precedes capacity.